right, so Brett, I'm going to start with you and just a rapid fire intro, who you are, what you do, where you're from.
Sure, Brett Novi, CEO of PharmaCann, 8-state, multi-state operator.
Michael Wang, co-CEO for iSpire Technology, the only NASDAQ publicly traded US-based cannabis-related company, but we are a technology play.
Mario Narek, CEO and founder of Motif Labs. We are a leader in vapes and infused pre-rolls in Canada.
And I'm Paul Benzinga, CFO of Cosmic Brands. We're based out of Oklahoma. We're now in 7 states. We do vapes and gummies.
Fabulous. Well, excited to be with all of you today. I want to dive right in. As a parent of a 10-year-old, I hear a lot in the media about vaping and its risks. And of course, this is almost entirely related to tobacco vaping. So my question for you is, what are the differences in safety, and what do you wish that cannabis consumers heard more about or knew when it comes to your products? Does anybody care to start?
I can get started. So I think the main difference between like nicotine tobacco vapes is, just to simplify, you're basically sucking chemical juice out of a battery with a little bit of flavoring from China. Versus when we do vapes with, like resin, liquid diamond, rosin, a lot of these other things. First of all, what's in it, it's a lot more pure, it's a lot more healthy, and then the vape manufacturers have designed devices that burn it a little different, so it really doesn't hit that bad.
Yeah, I think the only thing to add, it is a very different oil. It's a plant-based oil. I'm not sure of the regulations here, but in Canada, cannabis vapes are held to a much higher standard of testing, just in terms of ensuring there isn't, harmful compounds in there, or microbes, or butane, or whatever it is. We have to pass on all of that. So it's incredibly more stringent.
Obviously, in the US, it's different in that there is no federal level regulation. States all have their own regulations, but ultimately, it takes self-regulation to do our job right. From our point of view, we see consumer safety or protection in 3 ways. Number one, like Mario and Paul mentioned, oil is a key. Our company doesn't touch oil, we only provide hardware. So we count on the capable and responsible oil producers, co-packers, and brands for that. But on the hardware side, we certainly go out of our way ever since the formation for the company to make sure a couple of things are done right. Hardware-wise, we always use stainless steel and glass as a key component. Occasionally, we use food-grade plastic, but we do heavy metal testing on the material extensively. We tend to use 100% terpenes as a medium to test, say, hardware. 30-day, 90-day, 180-day, up till 360 days with no trace of heavy metal. That's our basic requirement for us.
Yeah, I've nothing else to really add. I think they did a great job.
I'll start this one with you then. As an elder millennial, the DARE program did a number on me back in the day with telling me all sorts of things about drugs, including cannabis, right? That it was a gateway drug and a bunch of other bad things I had to unlearn later. As we're seeing more messaging going out about vaping, targeting kids, telling them not to vape, again, with tobacco in mind, how do you think this may impact your future consumers? And do you worry at all that they're going to conflate the two? And what does that mean for you as far as how you want to keep messaging to them?
It's an opportunity to educate, which is all we could really ask for, right? We need to educate the consumer on all the standards that the panel just discussed and why we are different than tobacco. So we view that as an opportunity for us. So we like that narrative.
Anyone else? Any concerns?
Yeah, and I think the motivation for example, kids doing tobacco vapes is different than for consumers looking towards cannabis vapes. doing tobacco vapes is very much the cool thing. You take a puff, it's a bunch of smoke. You got the really cool flavors, the pineapple ice, and somehow it tastes really just like pineapple ice. And it keeps a lot of people up, the nicotine, etc. I feel like with cannabis, there's a lot of people that, for example, want to dab, but don't want to have, the whole setup. People want to smoke joints, people just want to get high, but don't necessarily want the smoke and the, aura that comes with it. You see a lot of vapes now, for example, that you can kind of hide in nicotine cases, so you can take it on the plane. It's just a lot more subtle. It's a lot simpler, without all the mess. I feel like, and a lot of cannabis consumers now are going to the rosin, to the more pure elements. So the motivations there are different.
Anyone else?
Yeah, just quickly to round it out, I mean, in Canada, the regulation is very stringent on anything that is enticing to children to begin with. You can't buy a vape unless you go to an age-restricted dispensary. We don't have anything, D8 in gas stations or anything like that. So it's a lot more stringent and regulated, and it's a non-addictive compound similar to nicotine. It's a lot less accessible for youth, and it's highly regulated. So. Look, and you got to manage the risks. I mean, there could be changes to the flavors that are allowed. So we have a lot of backup plans in terms of various flavors, or going more live resin, more naturally derived. But at the end of the day, it's a much different product.
From our point of view, we were one of the early players in e-cigarette from 15 years ago. And part of the motivation for starting the company was really to reduce the inhalants of, let's say, carcinogens. I think people all agree nicotine generally doesn't kill people, but it's the carcinogens that do. So on the cannabis side, it's the same thing. The good thing is we are in the vaping business. With vaping hardware, there is I would say, ability to protect minors, children, better than just smoking a joint. So we are now developing a so-called age verification, age gating technology at the point of use. Even though FDA hasn't been involved in the regulation of the cannabis vaping, the moment federal legalization happens, I'm sure FDA will get involved. Similar regulations that are applied to the e-cigarette industry will certainly come to the cannabis vaping. So from that point of view, our age gating, age verification technology at the point of use would really serve minors, protecting minors well. And obviously that will open up the marketplace for adults now that the users can be protected. So flavors could potentially be less of an issue for FDA rather than today.
Excellent. So Mario, I saw you quoted in MJ Biz a couple days ago, saying that you would rather be number 2 or 3 in 6 categories than number 1 in 1. I'd love to hear more about that philosophy, and then hear if others feel similarly or if you have a different take.
Yeah, and again, I think that's, it's unique to the Canadian market in that we've cast a wider net with our facility. We're a very large extractor, so we like to target quite a few different groups. In Canada, it typically happens that brands will come up with something really unique, and it'll rise the ranks quickly, and then it'll fizzle very quickly. Whereas we're trying to build, a much more robust product set, and so we're spreading ourselves across a few more categories, and we're doing those categories very well. We're not resting on one breakaway viral product, because that market share in Canada tends to be very fickle. Yes, you're there for a few quarters, but it's very difficult to stay there. So what I mean by that is, we have a great vape line. Our box hot vapes are number 1 in the country. But we're not resting on that. We're now, focusing on liquid diamonds, and we're doing that well. We're not number 1, but we're, top 3. We're top 3 in all-in-ones, and that's allowed us to maintain and grow our market share, whereas a lot of our competitors, come and go very quickly. So that's what I was getting at there. You need to diversify. The industry innovates very quickly.
Well, one of the most successful marketing campaigns of all time, of course, is we're number 2, we work harder, right? Car rental company. So I think there's something to that for sure. How do others feel? Would you rather have a bunch of products that are top 5, top 10 performers, or would you really like to own a category or own a specific space?
I think the answer will change over time. I think right now, for example, in our case with Cosmic Brands, we're growing. We're in 7 states. Our gummies and vapes are winning different awards all over. We were at NECAN a couple weeks ago and we got 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place with our gummies, right? So I would rather just kind of go to these states and collect awards and collect the reputation versus just being the best one in one category. Sure. And then everything else kind of falls to the wayside. However, let's say we go into 15 states or 20 states 3, 4, 5 years from now. That's when I think we're going to aim to be the number 1 in every market we're in. But right now, I'm happy with 1st, 2nd, and 3rd.
Laura, it's harder for me to answer that question than for Mario and Paul. But from our point of view, obviously we try to keep up with the evolution of the industry. Remember, just a few years ago, distillate was the de facto oil used in vaping. And then it evolved to live resin, and now rosin being so common, so popular. So we have to make sure our hardware keep up with that change. So from that point of view, right now, I would say our products properly address all 3 segments: distillate, live resin, and rosin. There is not a particular product outperforming others.
Yeah, we're too big and dispersed to think that we could own vapes in all of our markets, right? We might have the number 1 vape in New York, but or Colorado, and it could be the number 3 or number 4 vape in another state. We're always going to get picked off by single state operators that are focused on just executing that one form factor to perfection, right? Like, we're never going to be able to compete with that on a state by state level. And you see, and that's okay. We kind of know who we are. We know what our identity is. We put out a lot of different products in a lot of different forms, and it's really good, high quality products. But it would be super arrogant to think that like we could be number 1 in all those products in all of our markets. That's not how our company would win. And the other thing is, the consumer behaviors change so fast, right? It wasn't that long ago that we were cutting vapes with MCT oil. And because we didn't know how, we were learning and it was, okay, MCT oil, then cannabis-derived terps, then botanical terps, now it's liquid diamonds, live resin. So the evolution, you have to be really dynamic and kind of be willing to change and adapt quickly. So who knows what's next? But I presume there will be something around the corner that will change the dynamic again. And all the rage used to be disposable vapes. Now nobody wants a vape in certain markets. So it's fascinating how it's changed.
Yeah, absolutely. I know, I think about I just got a new iPhone and now I have to get all new chargers. So I feel this very deeply when it comes to reusable. One of the things that I enjoy most about being in the cannabis industry is the community feeling, and that there seems to be more of an openness to collaboration. And something I heard on a panel yesterday was that collaboration among competition is the best thing for the industry. Curious if you all agree, disagree, or what you would add to that.
Yeah, so Motif also participates in B2B, and we view it as co-opetition, right? I mean, we don't grow, right? We don't grow anything, but we consume 10,000 kilos a month of biomass, and we have to get that biomass somewhere, and we have some very good suppliers who need us to manufacture things for them. So, yeah, when you're partnering up with the right people to make each other's supply chain stronger, it's very valuable. I think those relationships have to be reciprocal. Like, that's something we're talking about a lot right now is, reciprocal relationships that make both parties stronger are very healthy and necessary. I mean, it's like every other industry. You're not doing everything on your own. So yeah, it's part of it.
Very similar from our point of view. We are not in a individual golf game. We are really in a community game. It takes the community to move the industry. So from our point of view, we not only focus on hardware technology, more importantly, we really engage the brands, the customers, partners in product development, as well as in the whole ecosystem build out. We don't ever think we can succeed alone. Like Mario said, it takes a partnership across the whole industry to move forward. From that point of view, we work closely with not only brands, but co-packers, extraction labs, to make sure we align ourselves with the best partner possible in each market to provide all the branded customers the best service, not only in best cost, best hardware, but also best formulation.
Yeah, it turns out this industry is really hard. And if you're into binary outcomes, like where somebody wins and somebody has to lose, like you might win the battle, but you will lose the war. Like we have to work together. We have to, by the way, we have to work together on a lot of different aspects, but on a state-by-state basis, you could see the success of these state rollouts. You could tell where the operators were collaborating and where they were dislocated from each other. And all you have to do is look at the success of the states to know where groups are working together and where they're not. So it starts even at the regulatory level, and it's pervasive all the way through to the most basic of operations. It's critical,
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, for example, for Cosmic, a lot of our business model is based on licensing. So when we go to a different state, we find a processor that really knows what they're doing, and then we partner up with them. So we have to collaborate, but at the same time, they're kind of our competitors because they're creating other products that they're selling as well. So I think that kind of makes us level up because we constantly have to justify, hey, we're a really good brand. Everything we do has success. It sells kind of itself, and that's why you need to continue working with us versus creating your own product. So I think it kind of creates the tension where both parties are rising up. I don't know if it'll last forever, but at least for now.
I like it. So I'm going to open it up to the audience after I ask this panel one more question. So be thinking about a question if you do have one. I would love to ask you, what is the trend that keeps you up at night? Good, bad? What is the thing that you are worried about, excited about, thinking about all the time?
So I've answered this question the same way for 9 years, and it's the power of the pen, meaning a regulator can come in and just decimate your business and the industry by doing something that has unintended consequences because he or she doesn't understand the implications of the reg that they're drafting or the law that they're trying to implement. I mean, a good example of that is the Farm Bill. And I could give hundreds of examples of that, but to me, the pen is the most powerful weapon against the industry right now, both ways, right? So.
Yeah, to that point, I agree. It's kind of what keeps me up at night too. And I'll just give an example. In Oklahoma, we do gummies that are very high dosage, so 100 milligram a gummy, 200 milligrams a gummy, 300 now. But obviously, it's because it's medical only. So the minute different states legalize differently. In Missouri, for example, when they went rec, they didn't put limits. But if they come to Oklahoma and say, hey, let's do rec, from now on it's 100 milligrams top per bag, that will take a huge chunk of our revenue as well. And we've adapted because we go to states where they're rec only, so we do different versions of our products to fit the mold. But things like that where someone power of the pen comes in and just slashes 60% of your revenue.
Yeah, fully agree. You can risk manage your way out of a lot of things, but you can't risk manage your way out of a surprise decision by a regulator, right? So you know, we as a business maintain a risk registry, and you know, not a lot of things keep me up because we talk about risks all the time. But you know, when you're like, oh, okay, all of a sudden this decision came out of nowhere, and it's completely changing the game. I mean, if Canada changes, you know, is overly aggressive on, let's say, vape flavors, that's a big deal that we have to navigate. So nothing to add. I mean, that's the one that's going to keep everybody up the most, I think.
I think everybody already answered the question well. From our point of view, I would just say we can't manage what's coming, but we can always manage what we do. So from our point of view, we just want to make sure products are safe, performs well, and we are always ahead of the curve. That's all.
Okay. Anyone in the audience have a question for our panel?
Happy birthday, Michael Wong.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
What's the question?
Any other questions for this group? Well, what are your go-to vape products, like if you, as a consumer yourselves?
Personally, I mean, we do distillate vapes, we do live resin and liquid diamond, but I really like the rosin and the live resin. I think it's, you know, it gives you a really clean high. I think the flavor is pretty delicious. I don't think people, I mean, some people do like the weed taste, but with rosin, for example, it's still weedy, but it's almost refreshing. It's like a fruity, weedy, yeah.
Go-to, I would say, you know, I'm a big fan of ratio vapes that have cannabis-derived flavors. It's kind of a niche. I haven't launched that product because, you know, the data isn't there. But to have, you know, a mixture of CBD, CBG, and THC just gives you just this consistent, really level-headed experience. Like if you're talking about go-to and using it continuously. And then when you're pairing it with those natural flavors, it's very unique. Something in our back pocket that, you know, if we launched it, it wouldn't take off, but that's what I make for myself. There's a few of us out there.
We've got a very friendly front
Just
row
not,
here.
just
I
not
like
10%
this.
market share.
Y'all
so.
ready to beta test for us? Okay, great.
Yeah, I by nature, I like all different kind of formulations, but I'm leaning toward the rosin right now.
I like infused pre-rolls. Just being honest. That's my go-to right now.
Nice.
You know, fair enough, fair enough.
Blunts specifically, it's like my favorite product.
I mean, my business is called Blunt Strategies for a reason, so I feel you. I feel you on that deeply. What are you seeing as the top trends from consumers right now? What are they asking you for? What is the data telling you that they're most interested in?
In vape, specifically?
Or anything.
Yeah, Canada's a little bit behind you guys, right? Or different. So all-in-ones and disposables, you're saying they're dying in some states, and they're very much like growing and expanding. And in particular, you know, in Canada, we're not able to market the same way. But the legislation tied to hardware is a lot looser than anything else. And all-in-ones allow you like a much larger surface area to tell a brand story. And so you're able to really push the boundaries of how that looks and speak to the consumer. So they're really starting to take off in Canada in a big way and have been. And we're finally starting to catch up on the live resin side of things. We've been restricted mainly because we don't have a ton of supply that's well priced, that's good flour to make good live resin. Well, that's what we're seeing. I think it's a couple years behind what you guys are seeing.
Yeah, I think we're, you know, on the resin and rosin stuff, I think we're seeing the same. You kind of have two groups, the people that, it's almost like the organic crowd, they want to know that, you know, everything they put in their body is pure and clear and organic. So you have those folks. But then, you know, on the distillate side, one thing that we've played with, and we had quite a little bit of success, is try to test with different flavors that, you know, terp profiles that sort of kind of match the nicotine flavors. Right, so for some reason, that's why the nicotine vapes just blew up because of the flavors. So if you kind of try to do something similar, it's still weed, it's still terps, but if it tastes good, I think people will try it.
So for me, the biggest theme I would say that we're seeing, it's a little outside of just vape specifically, but it's convenience. consumers are looking for convenience. Vape obviously is a big part of that, but pre-rolled and multi-pack pre-roll, that's another example of customers are getting, they're looking for convenient and discreet ways to consume. So that's the big thread throughout all the states we're in.
Yeah, I think the e-cigarette market is a leading indicator for cannabis vaping to a large degree. I think we all have seen the evolution of that industry. Right now, pod systems and the disposables certainly command majority of the market share. I think for cannabis, it will go through the same process. Right now, Brett is right. By state, just like Mario said, by state, different form factors are popular respectively. So in some states, disposables or all-in-one is absolutely in high demand. In some states, you still see significant 5-10 thread cards. Weird enough, but it really varies from that point of view.
Well, fabulous. We'll leave it here. So thank you to the panel, Paul, Mario, Michael, Brett. Appreciate you. Thanks, everybody.